Hey everyone, and welcome to another Game Explained discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by John Cartwright to give our predictions on the next Pokemon Presents that's coming out tomorrow, as they announced it last week. We just keep getting these apparently. So let's go ahead and get started. And John, last time we didn't really predict much, or at least Andre and I didn't, or at least I didn't, because Andre's not much of a Pokemon guy, so he didn't really have much to predict. And I was mostly right. There really wasn't much shown. We got Pokemon Smile, we got that Pokemon Cafe game, we got a little bit of new stuff for Pokemon Go. But in the grand scheme, it wasn't much, unless you count new Pokemon Snap, which, whatever.
I mean, that's put the switch from being an okay lineup to being a fantastic lineup. Pokemon Snap was such an out there surprise. And yeah, you're right, the rest of the presentation wasn't much. That one game really held it up, though. And that it alters my expectations for this, because I suppose there could be one big game that's holding up the entire thing. I'm just wondering what that is, because having two presentations in the span of 2 weeks is a pretty big it's a pretty big precedent to set. And honestly, my expectations are all over the place right now. Do we go high? Do we go low? I honestly have no idea.
Yeah, I'm kind of clueless when it comes to this. I'm not sure where they might go. We could get, I guess, Pokemon Frozen Tundra information. Seems a little early, so I kind of doubt it. We could get Detective Pikachu information. Maybe, I don't know. A lot of people have put out the idea of maybe Pokemon Let's Go Johto, which seems a little bit early to me, and by the same aspect, Pokemon Gen 4 remakes. Or we could get something completely new that we didn't expect, and here it is now.
Yeah, Let's Go Johto was trending earlier on Twitter, so people are definitely expecting that. I honestly don't know if I'm expecting a mainline game, because for me, I think the Crown Tundra and the Isle of Armor, I basically see those as this year's annual game. I think the DLC is taking that spot. So I don't know if we're going to get Gen 4 remakes or Let's Go Johto. I think it might be a bit too soon for that. But if I were to assume, I'd say that we're more likely to get Let's Go Johto than Gen 4. I know people are going to be upset by that, but I think they're just easier to develop. And Let's Go did sell moderately well. It was over 10 million units, which, considering the budget compared to a full-on Gen 4 remake, would be much lower.
I think it's only a matter of time. Let's Go Johto will be a big thing, and people will eat that up because people love Johto, and they already have all the assets for.
They've already got Gen 1 made.
Kanto, yeah. It's not like it's that hard. So, just shift a few things here and there, have some new character designs, figure out who's going to be our Pokemon for this gen, and there you go. So, it could happen. It's not out of the realm of possibility, but it does feel a little early because Pokemon tends to wait until the year of release to actually start hyping up the next game. This feels really early unless we're getting Let's Go this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the possibility. It could be a Let's Go game coming in a few months. I mean, it's not impossible. I don't think it's likely, though. But if it were to happen, who would be the box art Pokemon? Would it be like Let's Go Umbreon and Let's Go Espeon? Or like Let's Go Pichu and Let's Go another baby Pokemon? Togepi, or Marill or something?
That's a very good question because, people, of course, love Eevee, but I'm not sure if Espeon and Umbreon are the most popular variations of Eevee. I mean, I love Umbreon, but I'm not sure the general consensus of all that. And Pichu might be a little too similar to Pikachu. They've never fully pushed Pichu in any major way, I feel.
Going an entire game without evolving Pichu, that might be a bit rough.
Yeah, definitely keeping those baby Pokemon the entire time. That would be a little hairy, but I'm not sure who else they would pick. I really don't. I'm trying to think of those Johto Pokemon, and I honestly got nothing.
Yeah, it's tough. I would like to see it. I just don't think it's going to happen this year. Personally, I think this is going to be a bit more low-key than the previous one, and the previous one was already quite low-key if you ignore Pokemon Snap. But there is one big game I think that might be in here. And one of the reasons I'm predicting this is because Nintendo have not retweeted this presentation like they did the prior one. So if you go back a couple of weeks, they retweeted the previous Pokemon Presents, whereas this one they've just left entirely blank on the NOA Twitter account. So I think this might even be mobile-orientated. This is going off just a retweet. It could entirely be something else.
Yeah.
But there was, back in July, there was a news report that Pokemon Company and Tencent are teaming up to make a game. And I wonder if we're going to see a Tencent mobile game in this presentation.
I mean, it's very possible. They did confirm it's 11 minutes long, so this is probably more than just one announcement. This is going to be several announcements, and maybe it'll be mobile focused, but I think that'll be a huge miscalculation if that is the case. Like, yeah, I know they wanted to kind of focus on the stuff that's coming out pretty directly, rather than, you know, stuff that's maybe a little farther off. But I think they set expectations a little higher because it isn't just one big thing. So that might lead to quite a bit of disappointment. And Pokemon and mobile games tend to be very hit or miss.
They do.
You know, sometimes great or not. That said, they might be able to catch my interest if they get like a Pokemon Puzzle League on mobile. Prefer on Switch, but I'll take it.
Well, the thing with Tencent is they're a huge company. And I almost think that if Tencent's making a Pokemon game, there's potential it could be an MMO. I don't know what form that takes. Is it like a traditional MMO? I probably don't think so. But why else would they partner with Tencent? Like, what is their speciality compared to other mobile developers?
I guess that's a good point, but man, that's a weird thought.
It is a very weird thought. It could also be a Chinese-specific game, because Tencent does a lot of China games. But I'm just trying to think, like, what could this Tencent game possibly be? Yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean, we kind of already got we've gotten several monetized games, but we already have our gacha game in the form of, you know, Pokemon. I forget, Pokemon Masters.
It's been a while.
The name of it. It's been so long. I mean, maybe. I'm still, I guess, console focused. Where I was like, you know, it'd be kind of cool if we got a Pokemon Conquest 2. That was a fun game. Why can't we get a sequel to that? But, you know, in the more modern aspect of what they might be doing, that's where it gets tricky, because those Pokemon mobile games, who knows what they'll do? They could show us, you know, 11 minutes of Pokemon sleep.
They could.
And it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Detective Pikachu is also a pretty big no-brainer, because they confirmed it exists. I think the wording was, there's a new chapter of Detective Pikachu coming to Switch. And people weren't sure whether to interpret that as a sequel or an expanded port with a new chapter in. But it was confirmed last year during the Pokemon... I think just the Pokemon Conference, was it called?
I think so.
So we know it exists. We just don't know anything about it. So I think it's about time we probably see whatever the Switch Detective Pikachu is.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's a charming little game. I'm not sure if it's the most exciting one anymore. I was definitely more charmed by it when I early on, but it kind of wore out its welcome and didn't really evolve much as the time went on. But it was cute. The animations were impressive on 3DS. I don't know if they'll translate that well to Switch unless it's a brand new game. That's kind of where its charm lied. But, you know, they're already expanding beyond that, and I'm not quite sure where it's going to end up. Like, I'm trying to think to other Pokemon spin-offs that we've gotten, and, I mean, they're either puzzle-focused, weird racing games. We could get a new Pokemon channel, or Pokemon Hey You Pikachu.
Get a new Pokemon Dash.
Oh, God, yeah. Scratch up that screen. I mean, that's the thing with Pokemon. They really can go in a ton of different directions. And I guess they could all work. It's just a matter of what actually excites people. And I think the majority of stuff that they could announce at this probably won't be the most exciting for most people.
I think for the most part, we probably shouldn't expect sequels. Like, Pokemon Snap was a huge reveal. It's something, it's like no one really expected it to come, because it's just this game that we try to wish into existence so often, and it never happens. And it finally did. But outside of that, the majority of games in that presentation weren't sequel-focused. They were basically entirely new spin-offs. And I think that's what you should generally expect from Pokemon spin-offs. They don't do sequels that often. Like, I'm not expecting a new Mystery Dungeon or a new Dash, but I suppose it's possible that they very well could do something like that, though. Like, Mystery Dungeon Remake did come out at the start of the year. It's not impossible that they could be working on a new Mystery Dungeon game.
Yeah, they could. Or, I mean, I think people like the sequel even more, so it would make sense to do that as well. I think people would be excited for that. I'm trying to think what else they could do, but that's the thing with Pokemon. I've kind of gotten boring as a Pokemon fan, because I'm like, I don't expect much. It's like, yep, that's what they're doing. My expectations have been set relatively low over the time because I know what to expect. Once that big announcement is shown of the, a remake or a Let's Go or a new gen, then it's able to get excited. But for just like, who knows what they might put out, that's where I get boring because you have these lofty expectations and nothing actually comes of it to that, that much. It's just like, yep, here's a new Pokemon game. Help them brush your teeth. This one will help you comb your hair. This one will help you sleep. And sometimes they're a big hit, like Go. Sometimes people forget about them very quickly, like with Masters or Magikarp Jump. Yeah.
And the thing is, as well, is Pokemon's a multimedia franchise. So in the previous presentation, I was expecting like a movie reveal or just other stuff, but we got game after game after game. And I am wondering if this part 2 of the presentation, if they're going to start focusing more on other things, like not just games. I think it's entirely possible we learn about some future movies in here or something like that.
Yeah, we have the movie coming out, could have more of Pokemon Journeys coming to Netflix. They could have, whatever else. They could have some new animation project or who knows. There's, again, it's wide-ranging because Pokemon covers so many different multimedia aspects. They could easily just announce, like, hey, we have this new store opening up.
Yeah,
no, it doesn't make sense for this time frame, but hey, that's a thing.
And they had Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. They could do another movie remake. There's so much they can do. They're a hard company to predict because they generally do what you don't expect them to do. Much like Nintendo, like they just do whatever they want, play to their own tune. So I think my expectations are pretty low for this one, lower than the previous one, and they're already pretty low for that. I think we've got our big game. The big game was Snap. I think we'll probably see a bit of Crown Tundra now that Isle of Armor's out, but I don't really think we'll get that much.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. Like, you'd think after the first one, having more, it'd be like, oh, we'll have huge expectations now. It's like, no, I don't think that's the case. I think it's probably a better idea to go in here with low expectations and be surprised, like we were with Pokemon Snap. I think if you set yourself up for these huge expectations, you're probably going to be disappointed. They might surprise us, but that's the fun of it. It's like, hey, at least you actually get to be surprised and not be like, well, this sucked. I saw people speculating about the shelf in the previous presentation had all this Johto merchandise. I don't know if that's a hint. It's a hard one, because it could very well be a hint. But I also think there's a very real possibility they are working on Let's Go Johto. But whether they're announcing Let's Go Johto, that's another thing. Yeah, I think Let's Go Johto is a inevitability at this point. We have our third set of series. We have the Let's Go games, we have the remakes, we have the new games. And so we'll see how that all turns out. I'm trying to think of like other Pokemon properties that they really could be.
Yeah.
But it might end up just being something completely new. Or who knows? Maybe we'll get Pokemon Ranger coming back. Haven't seen that in a long time.
That'd be very cool. Very passionate fan base for that. One thing about Let's Go as well, if it doesn't replace the remake series, that's great. But another thing too is people want to see Sinnoh remakes, but they're also not satisfied with Sword and Shield's formula. So having Let's Go kind of be this filler for the year, like just this sort of easygoing annual filler, that gives them more time to refine the formula. So if you do want a Sinnoh remake, maybe it's time just to wait, like just to let them build up what they're working with at the moment. So they move away from the Sword and Shield engine and get something else going. Because wouldn't you rather wait for something better than receive basically Sword and Shield's Gen 4 remakes?
Yeah, that does make more sense. I think people would be a bit more satisfied with that. We'll see what they actually do, though, because my guess is it's probably going to be Let's Go Johto, then Sinnoh, then Gen 9.
I think yeah. And that's healthy. I mean, that's a good, 3 or 4 years until we get Gen 9, if that's the case, which I'm all for that. Take their time.
But, any other predictions for this Pokemon presentation?
I mean, I want to go out there, but I honestly don't want to raise expectations too high, so honestly, I don't have that much more to say.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. Like, I might seem down on this, but I'm just trying not to get too excited because I know how Pokemon works. But yeah, I think that covers it for our Pokemon Presents Round 2 discussion. So thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, and of course be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Pokemon and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.